What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Swing for the Fences show, Friday Fireworks. Stats and I here walking you through a monster 12-game MLB slate. Good contest. We got the $11 lotto today. Allows more people to get in. I know I'm meeting some friends for happy hour after the show. Stats, they're going to be playing some lineups for fun with me. We'll get them dialed in with Saber, get some lineups cooking for them on a Friday night. How was your week? What's going on?
Week's been busy but good, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little hungover, but I think I'm surviving. I took a little dip in the Gulf just to wake myself up earlier, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I am not hungover, even though I had a couple of drinks last night. Had date night last night. Had some burritos and stuff. Some cocktails at happy hour. It's been a really good week for sports. The NBA's had some great games. NHL had an overtime winner last night, even though we were on the wrong side of it. That was a fun game. But yeah, we got 12 games to dive into. I know we went a little long last week, so I think we just dive right in since we started a couple minutes late, and we'll get our thoughts in as things go along. Start in your neck of the woods in Tampa. Good weather down there. Milwaukee's in town. We got Jose Quintana and Zach Littell here starting. Pretty tough price tag on Quintana here. Do you like either pitcher? What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, as far as the hitting, let me bring up the pitching because now we dove right in, and then I had all my hitting stuff up. But let me get my pitchers up here for this one. So I've got Little at 10th rated pitcher on the slate, and then Quintana way down at the bottom, like 5th from the worst. Mm-hmm. So not going to have any interest in Quintana. Probably play a little bit of we've got so many big stacks here tonight, and with we got a Coors game, you got that Yankees game, the Dodgers. We got a lot of expensive bats that we want to play, so we might have to dip down. There's going to be a few options I think that we have to maybe get down to some cheaper prices. I think this is one of them. I think he's going to have to be in the 150 your 150 builds. The problem is not a lot of upside here, strikeout upside. It doesn't walk a lot of guys, but we don't. I think we're kind of limited as far as what we're going to find. But at 6,500, might do enough if we get some of these big bats. If we mix them in here with some of these big stacks, might just get enough for us to cash. Not going to go too crazy as far as ownership, but I think he's in the mix here in the 150.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of the story of the slate, and we'll talk about it as we go through, is big bats in elite spots. One of the better spots of the season for multiple teams. We'll talk about the Padres. We'll talk about the Yanks. We'll talk about that Arizona game, which is going to be sneaky. So we're going to be on the hunt for some cheaper pitchers. Possibly some guys who are not, completely comfy plays. So I think that's a good point there. On the bats, we have a good total. The game's in a good hitter's park. Any interest in bats here? I'm kind of sick of trying to attack Quintana. He's just kind of a guy who skates along, doesn't really get into too much trouble, but doesn't score enough for his price point pitching wise. It's just kind of usually an avoid for me. The Rays bats have really struggled against lefties. I really prefer them against right-handed pitching. Any love for Rays bats here or Milwaukee? The Brewers have a team total over 5 on Saber here against Littell.
Yeah, not a lot that I like here from Tampa Bay. I think I'll definitely have a lot more interest in Milwaukee, even though I said, we got to look at that $6,500 pitcher. But this is one of those instances where you're going to be playing both sides. I do like Milwaukee bats. I think they offer you a lot of value here on the slate when we're going to have some really high owned stacks in these high total games. We've got in addition to the Boom Report, this is like the first big slate we're going to test it out with. I added something called Tournament Edge, and it's looking at ownership and comparing it to the boom rating and seeing, where we could find maybe some leverage. And a lot of these, or at least the top Milwaukee bats, really rate well. They're elite boom plays and then really scoring well. Chourio being the number one guy in this game as far as edge because of where we're projecting ownership on him. So Chourio, Yelich, Contreras, Hoskins, all those guys are elite boom options with very good tournament edge upside because we're definitely going to have some low ownership. So good hitters ballpark. Like I said, we'll have a little bit of interest here in the pitcher, but I think the Milwaukee bats could be sneaky. Maybe you want to play them in a secondary stack. Not going to be very high owned.
Yeah, we've seen the road team at the Rays usually come in very popular, but just because of the context of this specific slate, I agree with you. I think they go under the radar against a pitcher who's really struggled. So I think the Brewers are great plays, especially if you're playing multiple lineups, right? Like if you're getting to 20 plus, I think you include the Brewers in there. The price tags are down. Yelich and Churio are both below 5K here. Drang, the 2 hole, also below 5K. So I think the Brewers are the interesting side here, bats wise. I probably won't end up on either pitcher, and I could see some Littell if you're playing 150, just because we do need the big bats here. But yeah, it's Brewers bats as the best plays here. I'll be including some Brewers bats in my stacks. Next game here on DK is in New York. We got the Mets playing the Cubs. We've got an interesting pitching matchup here. Clay Holmes and Jameson Tyone was kind of when I opened the slate this morning. Stats, because I knew that we were looking for how to play these top bats. I was hoping that Tyone would be cheaper, but he's up to 8K now after a couple good outings. Any interest in either pitcher? They just seem a bit priced up for the tough matchups that they're in.
Yeah, a little priced up, but I mean they're in the mix for me. Holmes sixth on my list tonight for pitchers, and I've got Tyon down at ninth. So they're going to make they'll make the cut. Tyon, I just don't, 8K again, not a guy with a ton of K upside. Holmes a little bit better here as far as Ks, so I do like him a bit more, even at a couple $100 higher price. So he's in the mix. You worry with the walks here with Holmes, so that's always an issue. So, but when we're playing GPPs, I really like to focus on strikeout upside, and certainly for the price, I think you get that with Holmes. So he'll be in the mix. I'll have a little bit more Holmes than I will Tyon.
Yeah, dangerous spot for both pitchers. The K upside is definitely with Holmes. Facing the Cubs has been tough for most arms this year. I just kind of wish these pitchers were a bit cheaper. This game's second worst offensive rating as far as park factors. This second behind Seattle. So, good in theory spot for the pitchers. Just tough lineups to go against for upside. Like if Tyone was cheaper, I would have interest, but at 8K against a team that just doesn't really strike out, that's hitting the ball well, I think it's going to be tough here. Any interest in bats in this game? I basically full X'd out the bats in this game personally.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, as far as the ratings go, like Alonso rates out really well as a tournament play because obviously they're not going to get a ton of ownership. But I can't imagine if you're going to use him as a one-off, I don't know what two stacks that you're going to have him with where the 5,800 price tag is going to fit in. So I mean, if you're playing some by some strange chance here, you're playing two low price stacks, and then you don't want to take the one off in one of these more high profile games. Alonso would be a good play, but I can't really see all that many situations where you're going to use that. So I agree with you. I think possibly secondary stacks, Alonso, Soto. Other than that, I don't have a ton of interest in the bats.
Yeah, on a big slate, sometimes you just have to ignore games, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I think the best plays are the pitchers if you wanted something. Speaking of the pitchers, I really like both pitchers in the next game, Philly at Cleveland. We got really cool weather here, stats. It's going to be in the 40s with the wind blowing in. In Cleveland, we got Aaron Nola, who after slow start to the season has back-to-back really nice outings against the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. His advanced numbers look good. Going up against young, talented, but going to be volatile Gavin Williams. We saw that basically both of those things in his last game start against Toronto. That was last Saturday. I'm not sure if you were watching. He had the strikeout stuff going, but he is wild, man. One of those guys where the stuff is so good, it just doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing with it yet. Throws 99-100, doesn't really have a locked-in secondary pitch yet, but the strikeout upside is there in a game with cool weather. I really like both of these pitchers. What do you think here?
So we've got to rate it out. Nola is my number 2 guy on the entire slate. I think he's going to he might even be the highest owned just because of that price tag. He might be the highest owned pitcher here tonight. So I do like Nola quite a bit. You've got pretty decent strikeout numbers here. You mentioned Williams, probably better, maybe a higher potential with the Ks. for Williams. He's another one of those guys. You get it often. Good K guys, good stuff. He's going to be, his question mark's going to be the walks. Gets a little wild. But at 6,800, again, we're talking about trying to find some of these low price pitchers that we may be able to play. I mean, I've got him down as like basically the middle of the pack. He's the 12th pitcher on the slate. But I want, you're going to, especially if you're using, Saber or, whatever optimizer you're using, you're going to wind up getting a lot of these lower owned pitchers. Presumably, you're going to be playing the more expensive stacks. So I think with the upside, the strikeout upside, even though he doesn't rate out near the top here for me, I don't like to leave those guys out because I always feel like there's that the FOMO. You don't want to. I don't mind leaving out a guy who is not a high strikeout potential guy, but I always want to get those guys in the mix, even if they've got some issues with control or anything like that. Just because when they're on, you could get a really high scoring game. So I think Williams is in your mix. But Nola definitely for me one of the top pitchers on the entire slate. I think the 8,300 price tag for what you can for what the projections are showing is well worth it, and he's going to fit in a lot. I mean, a lot of people are going to be playing him for that reason tonight. So I do like Nola.
Yeah, at this price tag, his estimators are good. He's got a 3.28 xFIP. It's right behind the 210K starters on the slate, Brown and Meyer. I think what helps him too, stats, like we know that they trust him to go super deep in games. If things are going well, we know that we're getting 100 plus pitches, 7 innings from Aaron Nola. I'm not sure that we can say that about a bunch of pitchers on this slate. He's thrown 99 plus pitches in 4 straight starts. He's going to be on my main team in single entry at least. I'm in on Gavin Williams. I think he's got the highest upside under 8K on this slate by far. We just saw it last outing. The strikeout stuff is there. He sits 98, 99. He's got a 5.08 ERA due to the walk. The walks have really hurt him, but also a 370 batting average on balls in play. Been pretty unlucky with that, and with home runs, he's got a 19% home run per fly ball. It's almost double league average. So xFIP under 4, good spot to kind of buy the dip on a talented young arm that should continue to improve. Not a clean matchup, obviously, against the Phillies, but that's why he's going to be lower owned here. I like leaning into the variance of a pitcher like this, right? Like he's one of the only guys on the slate that can go for 25 plus, I think, and we're getting him under 7K. So I like both pitchers here. I'm not going to be on any bats in this weather. Any last thoughts here before we move on?
No, I'm with you there. Yeah, very limited on the bats as well.
All right, let's go to my neck of the woods. Pretty chilly here in Chicago. It's in the 50s. Barn burner series this weekend in town stats. We got the Marlins, White Sox, going to be 3 sellouts. We got Max Meyer pitching against Bryce Wilson, who I just cannot believe that he has made multiple starts for the White Sox, one of the worst pitchers in baseball, and he's fully stretched out now. So they're just going to give him the ball for 90 pitches and just pray that he can get 15 outs. I guess the place to start here is, what are you doing with Meyer here? The price tag is astronomical. Had the awesome start against Cincy, clearly a very talented young arm, but got knocked around in Seattle, and then the Braves just torched him last time out. What do you think?
Yeah, this is DC's boy. I mean, DC was on him from day one, loved his stuff, and I think he's been right. And now you're seeing the price tag, obviously because of the White Sox, they've jacked up that price. But I think we can potentially take advantage of it. Again, it's going to be tough to fit a 10-2 pitcher in here with some of these stacks, but I want to get over the market on Meyer. I really, really like this spot. A low-owned pitcher who I think has a lot of you mentioned the Williams with some upside here.
Mm-hmm.
I think Meyer's one of those guys who can be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate, and you're going to get him at crazy low ownership, I think, tonight. So this is a guy I want to get over on. Wilson. I'm gonna have Wilson in the mix as well, though. You mentioned, I think it looks like it's going to be more of a pitcher's type of
it's chilly
weather, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, look, there's not a ton of upside. We got a $5,500 pitcher, not he's not a big K guy. The control's decent. We're not expecting much, but I don't even mind playing. And I mean, I'm not intentionally doing it, but if you play both of these pitchers, now you're only talking at like a 15-7, total. So it's like playing 2 8K pitchers. It might pay off for us. So I think Wilson has to be in the mix a little bit. Don't have high expectations, like I said, but I think just if he gets us anything, it may work with some of these games that we expect to just be massive scoring type of games. So if he just gives us anything, who knows? It might be enough. I think you got to play him.
Yeah, it's not like he's playing or pitching against a juggernaut offense. He's pitching against the Marlins at home in poor weather. I'm with you on Meyer. I just like to consistently be over on these low-owned pitchers who have upside for 30 plus, right? We'll if you're playing multiple lineups, he will fit with teams, even the high upside teams that have cheaper bats. Like we'll talk about the Yankees. If you stack the back half of the Yankees, you can definitely fit these guys. If you play Colorado, who I know I like here, they're all cheap, stuff like that. So I like Meyer here. Let's talk about the bats real quick. You said you'll have some Wilson. What do you think about Miami here on teams that do not have Wilson? Cheap lineup. I think they're going to fit well with the top stacks here. You got Edwards at 4.4, Stowers at 4.5, but the rest of the teams at 4K or less against a very, very bad pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, for the 150 build, I'm going to sprinkle some of them in. It's not my favorite. I have no interest in the White Sox, but yeah, I'll have a little bit here on Miami. I think Sanchez is your best option at 3,500, and certainly a play for a one-off play. I think he's not terrible. So if you could fit in you're looking for someone in that range to fit into your lineups, playing a 5.2. Sanchez, I think, works out nicely. So yeah, I could see maybe playing a little bit, maybe playing some secondary stacks with Miami to help you fit. Not my favorite, but the price tag's not too bad. Again, I'll go back to we're going to see how that tournament edge plays out. And shout out to Brittany. I know she's in here now. She actually pushed me. I was working on something like this, and she pushed me to finish it. So shout out to her. But yeah, Sanchez rates out fairly well for the tournament, obviously, because we're not going to get a ton of ownership here. So Sanchez has a decent score there and the elite level on the boom rating. So he would be the guy I'd look at for maybe a one-off.
Yeah, I think this is more one-offs, two-mans, just kind of filler spots against a bad pitcher and a bad bullpen. Nothing crazy here. All right, let's go to Kansas City. Wind blowing in Kansas City. We got Hunter Dobbins, who got his tits lit at home against the Twins last Saturday. I played him after a couple good outings against Michael Lorenzen. What do you think about this game here? Any interest in either pitcher? Both the guys in the 7Ks here.
Yeah, well, I've got Lorenzen as my 11th best option, and I've got Dobbins down as my worst option. So, yeah, no interest in Dobbins. I mean, just no strikeout upside. Lorenzen not terrible here, 7,200. Kind of middle. He's, he rates out 11th, and he's middle of the road here for me in pretty much every key metrics in K per inning, walk per inning, earn runs here. So, I'll have very little Lorenzen and no Dobbins as far as the pitching goes in this game. And quite frankly, I don't really love the hitting in this game either. Right. So it's not a game I'm going to be very high on.
Yeah, like if Lorenzen were cheaper here, I think I'd be more interested. But in that 7K range, it's going to be tough for him to beat some of the pitchers that are just above him. But also, like we said, not a great park for upside with the wind blowing in. If I played bats, it'd probably be the Boston side. The Royals are just a dead offense. Any interest in bats here? Any Boston for you?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, Bregman. What was that? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it's kind of like the Cubs Mets game for me, which is kind of like an avoid.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Bregman would be the highest option. He doesn't rate out nearly as high as some of those other guys that I mentioned as a strong one-off. I think you could punt this game and be fine with it tonight.
Yep. All right, well, let's punt it. Let's move to Minnesota. We got good weather in Minnesota. Giants are in town. Jordan Hicks going up against Chris Paddock, who's been beaten like a drum for most of the season. Hicks had the awesome outing last time out at home against Colorado. Well, started awesome, came apart a bit at the seams late. I think he's at least interesting here at 7,400. Any interest in either of these pitchers here?
Yeah, not much for me. Yeah, Hicks okay, like with
I don't love it,
strikeouts.
but yeah.
You know, I've just got both of these guys rated pretty low, down 16th and 17th pitchers on the entire slate. So probably won't really make the
All right, X and out Hicks. That's good enough for me.
I feel like I like the San Francisco bats a little bit here though.
Yeah.
In this one, Chapman, Adames, Yaz, I like those guys tonight. They rate out well, both on the boom score and for tournaments with decent ownership numbers coming in. We won't get particularly high ownership, so I do like those guys. Maybe nice secondary stacks.
Yeah, we're not super into Hicks, but he's also a tough guy to stack against, right? With a 60% ground ball rate, so not much interest in the Twins. It would be the Giants side here against Paddock, who has repeatedly gotten beaten up this season. My main concern, I guess I would say, with stacking Giants is the Twins have had the best bullpen in baseball over the last month. So, you're going to need to get to the non-elite options in that pen, which, if the Giants go off early, that could definitely happen. So, I think it's Giants bats are the best plays in this game for me. Like you said, we do have the lineup here reasonably priced throughout. Like you said, like we've got cheap options in the back half of this too. They finally dropped Wade's price low enough where we can play him as a strict platoon guy who, like, you just know that he's coming out of the game at some point. I think it's Giants bats here as the best plays. All right. We mowed through the first half of the slate because the second half of the slate is where the fireworks are coming. Actually, we got one more game before that. We got to go to Houston. Cincy is in town. Hunter Brown, highest price pitcher on the slate, 11K. He is fully deserved those stats. He's been awesome this year and the entire second half of last season, going up against Nick Martinez for the Reds. Kind of a league average arm. What are your thoughts on the two pitchers here?
My number one pitcher on the slate is Brown. I mean, he's got the price tag 11K. So another one because of that price tag, he will be a little bit lower owned than maybe than he should be because of all these stacks. But I mean, it's in my ratings, I've got him far, and this takes price into account.
Yeah,
I've got him as by far the best pitcher on the entire slate. So he's got the most upside, probably the best strikeout potential, best strikeout props out there. So Brown, if you could fit him in, again, this is where we're going to have to get creative with some of these cheaper pitchers and to get him in there. But I think you want to, I just my feeling here tonight is you want to get over on the two really high price pitchers in Brown and Meyer tonight and try to maybe take some of the cheaper options in these big team total games or stacks.
Yeah, and that's something that's actually worked on. It feels like every one of our Friday show stats is these top pitchers who are going to be under-owned. We joked a bit yesterday that Yamamoto wasn't on the Friday slate. We said he was going to get lit up because he wasn't pitching on a Friday, and lo and behold, he does. We got to love Brown here. 1.67 ERA, slate best, 2.57 xFIP through 7 starts. The Reds have just been terrible outside of Great American Ballpark. They had one good run in Coors, but they've been bad. And that series is actually kind of buoying their stats overall. He's got a high K prop, 27th weighted runs created plus for the Reds. He's expensive. I actually think that the projected ownership is high on him. I think he comes in under what Saber has at 30%. So just because people are going to want to play Coors, going to want to play these high totals, as they should, but people, when they're hand building, don't want to click on Kyle Farmer or Martin Maldonado, stuff like that. So I do agree with you. I think that playing him with the cheaper bats in the high totals is a really interesting way to go tonight. And then I actually like Nick Martinez a little bit here. Not a guy that I play much of, but again, right-handed pitcher against Houston, been basically streaming these guys the entire season. Yeah, I wish he was a bit cheaper. doesn't have great strikeout upside, but I think we can get a clean outing from him here. 9 right-handed bats in the lineup tonight. Stats for Houston since the start of 2024. Nick Martinez has been really, really good against right-handed bats. Struggled against lefties. Woba and ex-Woba both under 300 against right-handed bats. So strictly a matchup play for me here. I took his out prop over. I don't think we get some crazy DFS score, but I think he could have a nice outing. We're on the under in that game anyways. So I think he's at least in the pool here. You aren't hoping for a 10 strikeout game. You're hoping for a 6-7 innings of, a couple base runners, to get you in the high teens from Martinez. Any thoughts on him, and then any bats in this game?
I mean, Martinez for me, I just think we have better options.
Grade out well in your model for sure.
He definitely is not grading out well because of the strikeouts.
Yeah.
So I mean, 3.5 strikeout prop is not going to cut it. But you're right; he may get fairly deep in the game. I mean, he's just not a strikeout pitcher, but his out prop is pretty good. 17.5 juice to the over. So he may go deep in the game and just get you points that way, but it's just not going to make the cut. There's just too many pitchers here that I like above him in that price range. So, and as far as the bats go, I there's not much I like in this game either.
I don't have any bats.
So the only guy who rates out fairly well is Christian Walker. So another one of those guys, if you want to use him as a one-off, at least is a little bit cheaper than some of those other one-offs. But outside of that, not a ton of interest. This is a Brown game for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, the reason I've got him in the pool is just trying to have any guys under 8K just kind of get us there, right? Is kind of the thought process with Martinez, and we've just been routinely attacking that Houston right-handed lineup with right-handed pitchers that shut down righties, which Nick Martinez has been for his career. All right, I jumped ahead earlier, but now we're at Coors. I was excited to talk about this one. The Padres are in town. Padres, who just got Jackson Merrill back this week. They've got Arias back, and tonight they welcome Jake Cronenworth back. So they're at full force now, especially against right-handed pitching. And they're facing Antonio Senzatella, one of the worst pitchers in baseball, as you know. And then going for the Padres, Randy Vasquez, old friend Randy Vasquez, who has almost double the amount of walks as strikeouts on the season. We won't even waste time talking about the pitchers here. Why don't you talk about how you're attacking this game with bats here?
Yeah, I mean, I like both sides of the game, and I think you kind of hinted at it earlier. The Colorado side, like maybe you get some value here. The Colorado side will rate out pretty well on that tournament edge sheet because they will not get the same ownership that San Diego is, and certainly we're getting them at a cheaper price. But I mean, up and down the lineup here, I think you could play the San Diego bats. I like them all. Arias is just never a great option for me at the price. More of a, he's just not a big home run threat. A little bit of stolen base potential. So, but when you're, when you're stacking, he's going to be in the mix. But he'd be my least favorite for that reason. But I mean, Tatis is like by far the number one option on the entire slate. As far as the boom rating goes. And so obviously it's going to depend on what your pitchers are and how you're going to play this game. But I think we could get sneaky here with some Colorado stacks at really reasonable prices. Goodman, 4,500. Moniak, Toglia, if I'm getting any of those names right.
They haven't deserved yet to have their names pronounced.
They really don't. I don't watch enough. I don't watch enough of them to ever hear the pronunciation. So, but yeah, I mean, when you're getting a Coors game with two bad pitchers under, you get so many of these bats under 4K. I think they're all playable here. They're all in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres are in a great spot when even Jason Hayward projects for over 8, and like Maldonado isn't projecting for 4.5. I'm with you. Gonna be tough for me to get away from the Padres, at least on my main team here. And I think the price tags are gonna.
Maldonado in there? Is Maldonado in there today?
Yep, he is.
Okay.
He's hitting 9th. I'm seeing the ownerships at like 20% or less. Man, they've got a 7-team total on Saber against a guy who just routinely gets clowned. And if you weren't watching yesterday, the Rockies played a doubleheader, so their bullpen is in shambles right now. But yeah, I'm with you. I really like the Rockies here too. They're all projected under 10% here. They're cheap. I think they're going to fit well with teams like the Padres, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the D-backs, who we'll get to. And I'm not afraid to play the bottom half of this order. Like, they're so cheap. So yeah, I'm on bats on both sides here.
Where do you think the ownership does come in? Because I'm seeing in various places pretty similar ownerships, like in the pretty low actually.
Yeah, I think that's because, the Yanks have a 6-team total. The Dodgers are facing Erod with a 5.5 team total. Like, the O's are in a great spot against Kyle Hendricks with cheap bats. Also, it's a 12-game slate too. I think in single entry, obviously, we'll see higher than this. But if a team with a 7-team total is only going to be 20% owned, and like the back half of this order stats, I'm seeing 8%, 3%.
Yeah, real low. I think that's how you have to play it.
Yeah, so I'm going to bump up, 5 through 9 guys that no one's going to like click in. You're not hand clicking in 5K Xander Bogaerts over 5,700 Machado, but in Coors against Senzatella, any of these guys are live to go off. I'm going to be over on the back half of this lineup and way over on Colorado. When their lineup came out earlier, stats, I tweeted like fuck, here we go again. With Colorado, a good spot at home. But Randy Vasquez, I have been waiting for this asshole to come back down to earth the entire season, and I'm not missing out when he goes to Coors. Like, I just can't miss it. Like, this guy has, what did I write in the playbook? All right, so he's got a 6.11 expected ERA, 6.63 xFIP, 6.87 Sierra. He's got an 8% strikeout rate and a 16.2% walk rate. These aren't numbers that major league pitchers have. Like, we don't get to talk about numbers this bad because these guys aren't making starts in the major leagues, right? So yeah, yes, the Rockies have been abysmal, but I'm going to be way over on them here. Just buying into Vasquez finally shitting the bed. Any last thoughts on this game here? Like, we're both going to be over on both sides.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. I think you got to get over, and then that's why the pitching is so important, getting some of these cheaper pitchers. So yeah. I want to have a lot of lineups of like Brown with a shit pitcher, Meyer with a shit, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's going to be hopefully the winner.
Yeah, with the back half of the Padres, or like a full Rockies stack.
Yeah, it's like Wilson, Wilson, Meyer, and a full Coors stack.
Wilson grinds you to like 12 DK.
I'll take it. I'll take the 12. Yeah.
Yeah, you would sign up for 12 right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, let's go out west. We go to LA, Baltimore. My just pathetic Orioles are in town. Tomoyuki Sagano off 2 straight starts. He's been leaning on the slider a bit more, stats, which has him. His strikeout rate's up a bit. I don't think that's something that's going to stick, but at least interesting on surface level. Up against Kyle Hendricks for the Angels. You're interested in some cheap pitchers. Are you using either of these guys tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Sagano rates out pretty well here. I mean, 5th for me, but I just hate the I just hate the strikeout number for him. We don't expect a ton of strikeouts. Hendricks just not at all. So I got to see what are we thinking? Yeah, I'm not even going to touch Hendricks, but what are we thinking projection wise for Sagano, ownership wise?
I am seeing like 10% ish. It's a really good on paper matchup for him. Angels, really right-handed heavy lineup, as we know. They actually have the highest strikeout rate in baseball against right-handed pitching. 26 in weighted runs created plus. They have some power bats in their lineup, but I kind of like what I've seen from Sagano the last 2 outings. In 2 tough spots too. Like, he faced the Yankees and the Royals, who don't strike out at all. 12 Ks in those 2 starts. He's thrown 90 plus pitches. 7K, I'm definitely going to have some of him against the team with the highest strikeout rate in baseball. Yeah, highest strikeout rate in baseball in the split against right-handed pitching. I think you've got to have some, right? Like, it's just if you aren't playing in this matchup, with the K upside that just the Angels bring by showing up.
Yeah, no, I agree, but the Angels could hit some home runs too. So
yes,
I kind of like both sides. I actually think this is a sneaky kind of cheaper stack that we could play and maybe fit them in. So I like Angel stacks. I like Baltimore too. So I like both teams here to stack up as low owned. I think the Angels will be significantly lower owned. And the Angels might be maybe one of the sneakier stacks on the slate. I think very overlooked tonight. So I don't mind getting them in 5-mans and secondary stacks, but Baltimore as well. I mean, Mullins, Henderson, those guys, always huge potential, and they do obviously multiple things. Home runs, stolen bases. You get that from those two guys. So I like getting them in, but they're more expensive. I just think the Angels, with the price tag on some of these guys, makes some of the other stacks and these more expensive stacks, maybe the Coors game, a little more tolerable. So yeah. I like the Angels here tonight.
I'm with you, and I think we've kind of been in hand all week. I've played the Angels pretty much every night this week. They're just so cheap. 2, 3, 4 is 3K, 3,500, 3,300. You've seen Ward kind of come alive a bit of late after he struggled for a while. Has hit a couple bombs this week. Soler had the big game winner on Wednesday, I believe it was. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm keeping the Angels in, more of one-offs, 2-mans, 3-mans, just as, middle of the order salary savers there more than anything. And then, we got to talk about the O's against Kyle Hendricks. We do have their lineup now. The back half is super cheap. They do get Tyler O'Neill back, which is a huge boost to their order, not just because he's good, but it eliminates one of their, basically every single game they were platooning someone who would just get pulled early, and he just kind of takes that out of play. So he's there in the 6 hole, just kind of lengthens that lineup, and they really need it, right? Like, this team's been struggling, but that's also brought the price tags down, especially on guys like Gunnar. He's only 5K here. In the back half of the order, I think these guys are going to be popular in single entry stats. Like, you get Holiday, who's been red hot, Laureano, Rivera are all super cheap against Hendricks here. I think that's a good way to go as a secondary stack for the O's here. You play the back half of the order. They fit well with the Yankees and the Padres too. So any thoughts on that? Any last thoughts on this game overall?
No, I just to reiterate, I think it's a pretty good game, both sides. I think get in the mix, and I think they're going to be one of my I'll save it for the end of the show. So
very, very hurtful, Uncle T's, saying that teams that we like suck. Yes, it is dynamic pricing. They are priced down because they've been bad. Yes,
we're playing potential. We're playing potential. That's what
we're buying the dip, and these guys are going to be 4K after they nuke this weekend.
Exactly.
All right, what's up next? We're going to Arizona. Really interesting game here, I think. Interested to hear your thoughts. I was talking with DC about this game earlier. Eduardo Rodriguez going up against very underwhelming Roki Sasaki so far. Has gotten hit around a bunch in basically every start. Hasn't really gone super deep because the walk rate is high for Sasaki. What do you think? Let's do the pitchers first. Do you have any interest in either pitcher here?
Sasaki is, I got him as one of the worst pitchers, second worst option on the slate. Rodriguez, 14th overall for me. A little bit more, he's got the better K upside, but do we want to really, do we want to go up against that Dodger offense in that ballpark? I don't know. So I'm going to probably pass on both of these pitchers. I think the offenses, they're going to be high owned. Certainly the Dodgers. People are going to be looking that way, and with good reason. So I like the offense. I like both offenses really. And Ohtani, it's Ohtani, but he rates out as even with I don't know what the ownership is, where I had the projection. I did this earlier. So
I'm seeing everyone under 10%.
Yeah, and his ownership, what I had it in there earlier, is way too low, so that my numbers are going to change. But
it is left on left when we've got Coors. It's also strange not seeing him as the highest priced player on the slate.
Yeah, right. It's definitely unusual, but I think Dodger stacks look. I don't even know what to say other than they're going to be. To me, they're one of the best stacks of the night. I think that total is one of the. I think it's the highest team total outside of the Coors game. So, or the Yankees actually, and then them. So, yeah, love the Dodgers, but love Arizona as well. So I think but we're going to be paying up. Is I don't even know if I got the lineup here.
We have the Arizona lineup, not the Dodgers lineup.
We didn't get the Dodgers yet. Yeah, so we might get a couple of bats in here. I don't know if Kiki plays or some guys for a price.
I think Kike and I think Chris Taylor might start, like either Taylor or Rojas.
Taylor's 2K. Yeah, Taylor's 2K. That'd be a nice savings in that.
Rojas is 2,300 at second and third too, so that would help. Yeah, I wrote this up as top game stack outside of Coors on the playbook. The totals have been creeping up. Hit the over 9.5 this morning. The Diamondbacks, I think, do the best job in the major stats of letting us know when the roof's going to be open or closed. And they usually will tell us days in advance. So like they make the decision days in advance which games are open or closed. It's 97 degrees at game time here, and the roof is currently scheduled to be open.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep checking up until lock to see if they change it, because they do, they'll announce their plans for the entire weekend ahead of time. And on their site right now, it says open for tonight. So that is notable based on this game and who's pitching. Obviously,
I'm not familiar. Like the weather, is it like Vegas where it'll cool? Does it cool down at night like significantly? Or
it does. I was pulling up Ballpark Pal had this earlier for Chase Field. It says at 8 p.m. it's still gonna be 95 degrees. So this is something to keep an eye on, because if they have that roof open and it's in the 90s with these offenses and these pitchers, I think this is one of the better stacks of the entire slate at the ownership that I'm seeing right now. I'm sure it'll bump up. But yeah, I mean, you talk about the Dodgers, like they are death on left-handed pitching. Number one in baseball in actually, no, sorry. I was looking at the wrong team. But yeah. Actually, number one in both weighted runs created plus and ISO in the split against lefties. Super dangerous.
Give me the Ohtani. Give me the Ohtani. So Sabres got him at like 11 right now. Where does he come in?
Where does he come in?
Yeah, what's he owned in the
like 16?
That's all right. I was going to say 15.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's tough to pass up on
he's going to be half as owned as like Jackson Merrill at the same price.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously they're facing Erod here, a guy who, has strikeout talent, but has always in his career struggled with power going up against this Dodgers team. And then Sasaki, he just doesn't look like he's ready to be a major league pitcher. He's crying after the outing last time. You see that, crying in the dugout, because it didn't go his way. He's basically a two-pitch pitcher, it's just not going to work in the major leagues unless he develops a third pitch. He's not missing bats. He has a strikeout rate of 18%. But what's interesting here, 15% walk rate stats. He's afraid to throw strikes because when he's coming in the zone, he's getting hurt. He's got a 3.86 ERA that's kind of masking really poor underlying metrics. 5.52 expected ERA, 5.23 xFIP because of that walk rate. Like those underlying stats are in the realm of like the Kyle Hendrickses, the Randy Vasquez's of the slate. And I don't think that ownership is going to reflect it. So I really, really like Arizona here. I think they're going to be under-owned. And I think we see a ton of runs in this game, especially if that roof is open. We've got cheap bats, I think, that are going to be in the lineup on both sides here. I'm seeing everyone on Arizona under 5%. Goddamn, it's just an awesome spot here, especially if that roof is open. Yeah, if this game is 2-2 in the sixth, you're going to get the good Dodgers pen arms. But we've also seen them punt games, and they have really mediocre middle relief pitchers, as most teams do. So I'm on the bats on both sides here. I'm going to be way over on Arizona. I think they are the best low-owned stack on the entire slate. Any last thoughts to wrap this one up here?
I'm with you 100% on this one.
All right, let's go to a more boring game for bats. Go out to Seattle. We're talking about some pitching for the first time in several games. Gossman is going up against Luis Castillo. Seattle traded the Luis F. Castillo, so there's no issues there anymore. Gossman's stats had an awesome outing last time against Seattle last Saturday. Played him on that slate. He's had the good splitter for the majority of the season, which is the key to him getting the strikeouts going. Had the tough outing at Yankee Stadium. That's going to happen. But other than that, start stats, he's been really good. He's priced at $9K here. Might be a bit of sticker shock to some people, but I really like him here. Seattle's offense has been really good, but man, he just feels like one of the only arms on the slate that can give you a 30 plus. So I definitely want to be over on him. And then Castillo, the skills are declining, career low strikeout rate, career high walk rate, clear signs of that. Like he knows that he's got to nibble a little bit more, but he has a home start against Toronto, who literally cannot hit right-handed pitching. 27th in weighted runs created plus, 28th in ISO. Not a great strikeout team, Toronto, but the damage just hasn't really been there against righties. So I'm in on both pitchers here. I feel like we haven't said that much this show. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. And in that ballpark, we kind of veer away from offenses, right? So Gausman I've got as my fourth best pitcher on the slate, 9K, but I mean, this is the third best K option I think you've got, or really the second best K option on the entire slate. So 6.5 is his prop. It is juiced to the under, and 17.5 strikeouts, heavily juiced to the over. Castillo I've got as my seventh best option, 84. Like you said, the strikeouts are down. He's kind of mid pack for me, K per innings. But his other metrics are still pretty good. He's got a very high prop as far as outs. It's again 17.5, and he is heavily juiced to the over. So we could be looking at one of the a fairly two pitchers going fairly deep in this game, accumulating some points for us there. I agree with you. I think both pitchers are in play. Gausman more for me than Castillo, but yeah, I don't really want to touch bats at all in this one.
Yeah, Castillo seems just like a bit safer version of the Nick Martinez play, right? Like where you're hoping for 6 clean innings and like he just kind of grinds you to 20.
Much better than Castillo, in my opinion. But yeah,
but it's same idea, right? Like you're not going to get a 10K game. Gossman I love because he does pop those 10, 12K games, so like where he's the SP1, he gives you a 40, and 9K is not that much for having that type of upside. All right, let's go. I think
he's got like second or third best upside maybe on the whole slate now.
Yep. All right, let's go to last game here. Out in Sacramento, where we've seen fireworks the entire season. It is hot out there. I think it's in the mid 80s today. Stats. We got Will Warren, talented young pitcher for the Yanks, but hasn't put it together yet against Osvaldo Bido. One of the worst pitchers in the major leagues. No swing and miss at all. High walk rate. Really, really tough spot for him, I think. Any interest in a cheap Warren here, or is it all bats?
Yeah, I mean, I do like the bats. I don't really have an interest in Warren, even at the 6,300.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to rule out that he makes like two out of my 150, but for all intents and purposes, I don't like it. I love the bats here, and Bido, like you said, just absolutely no interest at all. This is, you mentioned Sasaki, his walk rate, Bido's probably right there with him on this slate, the two worst pitchers on this slate as far as control goes. So I'm going to pass there. It's all about the bats. We've kind of been alluding to it coming into the game. The Yankee bats are just elite here, but don't sleep on the athletic bats either. So, I think you could just stack this game every which way. It kind of sum up the entire slate. I think it's a 12-game slate. I think we can narrow it down to maybe, I don't know, it's top of my head, like maybe like six stacks that we really like. I think that's how we have to play it and just really pound some of these better stacks. I think it's going to be, I don't know if we're going to get something too sneaky. It may be a sneaky like secondary stack, but I think one of these, either Yankees, either the Coors teams, Dodgers, Arizona, like one of those teams are going to be the 5-man. I just feel like that's the way it's going to be. So I think we want to just try to pound them as much as we can, and then which means we're probably going to have to get over on some of these cheaper pitchers. And I said I want to get over on Brown and Meyer as well, which means that's even more reason. So I'm hoping that that it looks like a Meyer Wilson or something like that with one of those six big stacks, and maybe the cheaper bats in one of those six lineups with maybe we'll get a cheaper secondary option. So it's kind of the way I'm playing it tonight. But this is I think you can just pound these bats here on both sides.
Yeah, this sets up perfectly. Like, we have a couple cocktails at happy hour, we wait, and then all the late games just nut, and we just win with all the late bats. That's kind of how I'm dealing with it. We actually just got the A's lineup. We got some cheap bats in there too. So love that. We don't have the Yankees lineup yet, I don't believe, but they've been starting the Vivas guy at second. Cabrera could start. Wells is back under 4K. Judge is the only guy above 5K in that entire lineup. So expect heavy ownership on Judge, as he should be. But I think these teams with the larger totals are going to be easier to stack than we think. I haven't clicked in my main yet, but we like the cheap bats in both of the lineups in Coors. We like the Arizona.
And almost all of these lineups as I'm going through it, because I haven't made my lineups yet, but
they have options.
Yeah, there's a couple of like if Vivas starts here, you get that 2,309. I'd rather these guys, the cheap guy. I'd rather be. I mean, obviously, it'd be nice to have a 4-hitter, but you're not going to get that with the Yankee lineup. But it's nice when they're in the 9 hole and you kind of get that wraparound effect. So I don't mind that at all.
All right. Well, that's all 12 games. Let's do the fun stuff at the end of the show here. We've been doing the Dong draft first. I was actually talking with my girlfriend the other day. She wants us to rename it the Dongathon. So I'll have to run that by you and DC offline. I kind of like the Dong draft, but Dongathon did make me laugh. I'll let you go first. We still have the rule. 3,500 or less is a 1.5x.
I don't think I've hit. Yeah, and I love to play I like to go to the cheap way, and I don't know if I've hit one of these at 3,500. So
we have some cheap bats that we like today.
We do, and I think I'm gonna do the same. I don't know if you saw what I did on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go pretty similar here. So you want me to lead it off? I'll lead it off with. I'm gonna go with. It's gonna look very similar. I'm gonna go with Soler at 3,500.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stick with the cheaper bats. We're just reaching for that 3.5x. I'm going to go to Arizona, who I really like. I'm going to go with Lourdes Gurriel Jr. as my first pick.
Okay. All
right, so you had...
I've got Soler.
Soler and Gurriel. All right, go ahead.
No, you got the wrapper. You got 2 picks.
Ooh, I get the wraparound.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to who do I want to do here? I want a cheap guy for sure. Let me go to Baltimore here. I'm gonna go with the cheap guy for Baltimore. He is hitting 8th. Ramon Laureano has some pop. Go with a cheap bomb there with Laureano.
All right, I'm gonna stick with the Angels. I'll take Ward.
Okay.
And then I'll go with one lock, and I'll just take Tatis.
Tatis. All right, so you got Tatis. If we're going with expensive guys, I will.
No, you got them all. Don't you have your 3?
I have Gurriel and Laureano so far.
Oh, all right.
I'll go with a guy who had his first last night. He's going to get hot for us. Ketel Marte going yard tonight. So it is Soler, Ward, Tatis versus Gurriel, Laureano, Ketel Marte in the Dong draft here. All right, let's talk about most important pitchers, and then we'll talk about stacks, and then we'll get out of here. Who are your most important pitchers today?
I'm gonna go with Meyer as being the most important.
Yeah, low on Myers, seeing under 15% on him. I'll go with I'm gonna cop out and give two. Sagano and Gavin Williams, cheaper guys that are gonna allow us to get up to some big bats. Not afraid to take risks on guys that could totally get blown up, like Gavin Williams could, but he does have the 8 to 10 strikeouts in his arsenal here. All right, let's go for you. Let's do top stack and then like top under the radar stack. Like usually.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, but I think San Diego's probably the best stack on the slate. But I think the under the radar one will be the Angels for me.
Angels, yeah. I'm gonna have a bunch of those Angels, 1, 2, and 3 mans with the heart of that order. They're just so cheap, and they've hit well at home. And it's not like we're playing Sagano because he's some great pitcher. We're playing him because he's cheap, and we need big bats. I'm gonna go with just that Dodgers Arizona game. The Dodgers as like the top stack, and then Arizona as the sneaky stack. It is just wild to me, the ownerships that we're seeing. Sasaki's a big name, but he has shown nothing to us that says that he should be avoided, especially in this type of weather, especially if that roof is open. All right, we said it all. It is 4:59 Central. We're on time for once. Look at us. 12 games.
This is gonna be a fun one, I think.
It's gonna be a great slate.
And like you said, the good stuff doesn't happen until we're pretty well oiled up. So
yeah, so hopefully we get some good pitcher scores early. Be set up for good spots for when the West Coast games hit. All right, we have said it all. We'll be back next Friday with stats for another Friday Fireworks. I am likely to be on that show. I've actually got my parents coming to visit. We're gonna go to a couple White Sox Cubs games next weekend. The old crosstown rivalry.
Bring Dad on the show.
Get Tom on here. Some takes.
Yeah, get his takes.
We'll get Tom in the dong draft. How about that?
I like it.
All right, everyone have a good weekend. Enjoy the NBA games tonight. Enjoy the MLB slate. We got a UFC pay-per-view tomorrow. Go Bilal. Bilal's a Chicago guy, trains down the street. So I will definitely be rooting for him.
What do you want? You got the Pope, man. You can't have everything.
Yeah, the Pope. We got Bilal. We got Tom coming to town.
Big week in Chicago.
All right, for stats, I'm Steve. We'll see you next week.